ladies, welcome back once again to Conversations with My Mother. This is my mother, Dr. Betty Burston.
And this is my daughter, Dr. Shatria Collier.
So we had a really fun time last week, and we want to thank you all again for some interesting feedback and comments. So this week we are really going to continue to pick up with this conversation about masculine and feminine energy, and as my mother called it, Yinism. We're going to be focusing on activating and what is Yinism and how do we activate it. So before we get started, I still am going to draw upon Dr. Pat Allen's book because, as I said, I think it's just a great foundation in terms of getting into this conversation a little bit deeper. Now, I'm going to look at it from the framework of, as a woman who at this point in my life has decided to attract an alpha male, masculine energy man. So what does that consist of? According to Dr. Pat Allen, the male energy is the giving, initiating, leading, active partner who elicits surrender, receptivity, and bonding from his partner. When the masculine energy gives, protects, and cherishes, he is penetrating the other's defenses to surrender to the pleasure of the relationship. So, what are your thoughts about that, Mommy?
I like what she's saying, but there's some steps before we can get to the point of surrender. And it goes back to the thing that we were talking about the last time, and we actually have touched on it over the entire course of these conversations, that the fact that as women, we have to first activate our power before we are willing, I should say, to surrender without consequence.
Okay.
So one of the questions becomes, how do we activate that power?
Yes. Step
number one. If you remember last week, we gave some of you the assignment to look at history and to look at women who had activated their power, whether consciously or unconscious, and to look at the impact of that upon society and upon life. And one of the things that the persons we failed to mention was Monica Lewinsky. Monica Lewinsky has an important lesson to us as women. She was a girl. And she was a girl that many people would have considered as being a pretty girl next door type. But Monica Lewinsky had the power to almost bring down the President of the United States, the strongest country in the world. So that's very important for you to really study history, both current history, and to look at how the power of women has transformed life.
But can I ask you this, though?
Yes.
Is the power, because that was a case where she exerted her power in a sexual and a destructive way. I bet you if I talk to Monica, she's probably a very insecure woman with low self-esteem. I don't even know if she consciously understood.
Oh, I'm sure she didn't consciously understand.
Yes.
So imagine if she could do what she did without consciously understanding what women who consciously understand and use their power can do. But again, we have to go back to what I said, is that if we activate our power without God, it's very destructive. This is why societies have feared us in the past as women. So we have to have God as the moderating influence so that we don't use that power. We use it for good as opposed to for bad. But see, there are very negative consequences to women in our society behaving helter-skelter without any set a foundation, an ideological foundation. Because if you notice, in some groups, 70% of our children are born outside of wedlock. This is not good for the women. It's not good for the children. And it's not going to be good for the women's grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Mm-hmm. So therefore, everything that we do as women, whether we're doing it consciously, insistently, it's going to have an impact because we are powerful. Mm-hmm. So if you activate an atom bomb by accident, it's going to be more destructive. Do you see? Mm-hmm. So the whole notion of what I call Yinism is for us to teach us about our power and to teach us to use it in a way that's positive, uplifting, and good has intergenerational benefits to us and our children. Mm-hmm. So as I said, the first thing is studying history. Second step is very important. It's making a decision as to where you fit within this realm from yin to yang, or where you choose to fit.
Because, can I interject
Yeah,
that not all women are yin energy women,
Exactly,
and being
that's
honest
okay.
with ourselves about that is extremely important.
Super, because if you try to be a yin woman and you are disproportionately yang, you're going to be self-destructive because it's not going to work. So I would say, if you look statistically, most women are going to fall within 60, I would say about 68% of women are going to fall with, was actually higher than that. I would say there's only about 12.5% plus 2, about 15% of women are going to fall into the yang range, and only 2.5%. And this is just looking in terms of what statistics says, because if you have a, quote, normal curve, then most women are going to fall plus or minus 1 standard deviation from the mean, and then some are going to be extremely yin, which is like 2.5%, another 13.5% who are close to being extremely yin, and then the others who are within that 68% plus or minus 1 standard deviation can choose either way. They can choose to activate more yang qualities, or they can choose to activate more yin qualities.
Okay, so you can see my mom's statistician mode came, and I'm going to have to go back and totally reprocess what she just said to me, because when it comes to math and numbers, I tend to shut down. But you get the gist, that the majority of the women tend to be yin women.
Right.
Right.
And
So
it's perfectly okay to be yang women. As anybody, it's perfectly okay to be yin men. Again, one of my things that I dislike intensely are people who, especially because I'm a very religious person. I love God. God is the center of my life.
Are you a spiritual or are you a religious
No,
person?
I am a religious person.
When did you become religious?
I've been religious for about, maybe 20 years now.
We're going to have another conversation about that, because I view you as being spiritual. I don't necessarily view you as being a religious person.
No, because then I see, when you're God-centered and you have certain beliefs surrounding how to interface with God, that makes me religious, you see.
Okay.
So, we could simply say that, I'm a God-centered person.
Yes, let's see your God.
But I also am so resentful of people who go around talking about people who have different sexual preferences than, oh, God doesn't want this or God doesn't want that, because everything happens in life happens with the consent of God. So that's why I'm saying that it's important for the person to be true to themselves.
Yes.
So if you
true.
if you are truly closer to the yang qualities, then it's a whole different set of ways and powers that one exercises. Mm-hmm. If you're closer to the yin, then what we're saying is more applicable. Mm-hmm. So that's the second step, is knowing yourself, knowing where you fit within the continuum. All of us have yin and yang, but we're talking about proportionalities. That's the second step. Then the third step, if one decides that one wants to utilize this yin power, is looking at every element of ourselves and saying, how do we maximize our yinness? For example, the way we sound. If you look at flowers again, grass is beautiful, shrubbery is beautiful, but for some reason flowers stand out, and it's simply because they're colorful. Mm-hmm. The colors we wear. You notice one of the things that came out of the women's movement was for us to dress in browns and grays and blues, which are so-called corporate colors. Yeah. Yinism says, don't listen to that. If you're going to put on a suit, put on a red suit. Mm-hmm. The colors, put on orange suits, put on vibrant colors, because those are yin qualities, colorfulness.
And one of the things I want to say is that it was so good for me growing up, because my mother would always be like, I used to get so angry because she'd say, hold your shoulders back, tuck your stomach, and I used to get so angry with that. But now oh my gosh, I couldn't stand it. But now as an adult woman, I so appreciate that. And it's funny because in LA, people I don't think are as into dressing up as we are as East Coast people. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people say, you're always dressed up. Why are you always dressed up so much? It makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. More so than attracting, that masculine energy, but it makes me feel good.
Exactly. And a yin woman, it's not for others. It's for you. So you would behave the same if you're in your home alone.
Yes.
As if you have an audience. So as I said, looking at what you wear, the colors, colognes, it's attractive, smelling good. It is a yin quality, to smell good. So the colognes are important. All of those things maximizing the things that we are.
And accentuating what you have, regardless of what your shape and size. Because, this goes back to being overweight growing up. But because, you always taught me to accentuate what I had, I think my esteem was a lot higher than it would have been if I had a mother who didn't understand how to help me accentuate what I had.
And that's the next point, is understand that the power of a woman doesn't come, it comes from the collective of who we are. Every woman is beautiful. Everything about us as women, our skin is attractive. Our skin attracts. The softness of us attracts. The curve of our neck attracts. Rings and things dangling from our wrists attracts. Everything that differentiates us from men attracts, and it highlights the yinness in us. So that's one point.
Okay, so now we're running out of time.
Okay.
Would you like to share one more point, and then perhaps we can pick up with this for our next webisode?
Well, we don't want to bore them with the power of a woman. Another thing, and this is probably the most important thing that I've ever said since we've had conversations together, is that do not be jealous of other women. Oh, God gave all of us as women this power. So it means a male is going to respond to us. When we see a woman whose power is visible walk into a room, we start beginning to try to tear her apart. Be proud. She is our sister. She is our mother. She's our daughter. She is all of us. She represents us. Because God gave each one of us as women enough power to achieve what we want. She's not going to take anything from us. We don't take from each other. All of us collectively have that power.
That's beautiful. I think we're going to end with that for today. Ladies, once again, we love you. You are a shining light. You are a ray of light. And we're just going to keep on the journey. Anything else you want to add, Mommy?
Yes, we hope, as I said, continue emailing us if this is of value to you. If it is of value to you, tell your friends so that we can share these views. At some point, we're going to be dialoguing with you. So, but we need it first to just know that this is something that you want.
Mwah.